Hello, good morning. Okay, hope you can hear me. Um, okay, today we will talk about abstract, concrete, and middle thinking, or how to get the best of both thinking. And I think, according to the situation, they may vary. So, let's start with it. Um, when we talk about abstract thinking, we almost all of the time think about intangible things, things we cannot touch, we cannot see, and sometimes we have to imagine and see how different abstract concepts are combined and that kind of thing. I know some of you are developers, so you might have a deeper understanding of abstract and concrete. Because, for example, when we program, especially if you program in objects, um, you will have the classes or the categories of the things, and then you have the concrete objects or the instances, and that's a good example to understand what are the differences between abstract and concrete. Concrete is everything that is tangible, we can touch, see, feel, smell, that kind of thing. And when we think about abstract specifically, um, there's a concept in NLP that is called chunking. So you take a bunch of things and try to understand. You can chunk up, I mean, get more abstract every time you talk, or you can chunk down. When you chunk down, you get into the specifics, into the details. So we will see some of things we can do to understand when someone, for example, is thinking in an abstract way, and you actually need to get to the specifics. You can chunk down that information you're receiving. Hi, Jorgelina. Hi, I can see you now. Um, when you are chunking down, you can ask, for example, what specifically are you talking about, or tell me more about the details. Um, in what context can I use that? I know that because I'm most of the time talking about abstract thinking and talking in non-specifics, and sometimes people get lost, and when they ask me, well, okay, tell me more about that, and I have to chunk down into the details and go into specific to examples and that kind of thing. But if you are stuck into the details, sometimes you want to go up, to chunk up, and also understand why and with what purpose is this person talking about these details, these specifics. For example, let me give you an example. Sometimes, well, the other day I had a conversation with a manager, and I was delivering a training. She was stuck into the specifics of the work she was doing, and she couldn't see the big picture. And the big picture is the abstract thinking. So um, when you want to see the big picture and not just the every single detail, you can actually see the big system or the whole system that's going around you, and you can actually notice the flow of the processes you are working with, the systems you are interacting with, and that's how you can improve a whole system. Well, when we might talk about systems other day, but when you are working with systems, when you modify a little part of the systems, there will be implications or ramifications to the whole system. So there will be more moving parts, not only the one you are modifying. So you have to see the big picture there. You have to think in abstract, and you have to extract the why, what's the purpose of working in that specific way, or what's the purpose of modifying that piece of the system. And then you may want chunks down to the specifics if you are working with a very little task regarding to that system. So I consider for managers or leaders to be abstract thinking is one of the most important things, because you can think in the big picture, but you have also to be able to go down into the specifics. Just to understand how the team will execute the things you want them to do, or to execute your vision. So it's good to know where we are, or what are our best way of thinking, let's say. So we can also understand that maybe we are going into one stream, into one extreme, and then we have to understand also that other people think in a different way, and we can ask ourselves these questions. So if you want to go, once again, if we want to go to the concrete, you can ask what specifically, or I will tell you more about the details, and you go into the details. And if you want to go to the abstract, we said we are talking about purpose and why we are doing things. And so it's actually really interesting for communications, because we learn how to communicate better with people, and also it helps us a lot, this concept that's called chunking, as I was saying. Okay, another thing I wanted to tell you about abstract and concrete thinking is then when we are in abstract thinking, we are thinking about the big picture, and also about patterns that we found in a system, or in an organization, or in a code, or wherever we are thinking about. So it's we have talked about meta learning last session, so we can think about learning how to learn. It's kind of an abstraction of what we are mostly used to. We are only used to learning or thinking, and not specifically thinking about how we think. Maybe, I don't know about you specifically, but most of the time we are only in the details. That's what I found between, in general, of course, and I'm abstracting there, generalizing. But we tend to think only in the things we have to do, and not how to do them best, or how to improve, or how to have a better thinking. So I would like to generate a discussion here about how we think, what would be the best way for us to understand how we think as a person, as an individual, in the concrete thinking, know yourself, to understand yourself, and then you can also be better at communicating with others. Well, I was saying about leaders, they are more of abstract thinkers, and executors or operators, or people who actually do the work. And of course, we need to have both type of people in our groups, in our teams, in our organizations, and they are more of the concrete thinkers. And I draw the distinction because many times I found, it has happened also to me, I was an executor in a team, and then I had to lead a team, and I didn't know about this concept, and I was lost most of the time, because I didn't know how to think, or to see the big picture, how to understand the whole plan that the organization has had, and how I had to interact with that and be part of a bigger plan, of a bigger thing, a biggest purpose. So I think it's very important that you to know yourself, to know what is your best way of thinking, and of course, mm, get that thinking into a more strong way. If you are very good at thinking in details, maybe that's your forte, your strength, and you can deepen that strength. Or maybe you can, if you are interested, you can also grow the other skill of the other way of thinking. What happened to me is I had to learn from scratch. I wanted to to be both kind of thinkers, and I guess I'm on that way. That's why I'm talking to you about abstract and concrete thinking. I guess I have just realized that somehow I'm doing the connection now. Of course, there's a long way to go on learning yet, but well, let me give you another example. I wanted to, for example, if you want to think, or if you think about the biggest picture, you are making a plan, you're a strategic thinker, and you have a great vision for you to accomplish in a certain time. Generally, strategic thinkers think in a long term, from 5 to 20 years, and that's okay. They have the vision, the where they want to go, and why, and the purpose they want to accomplish. And sometimes they have to keep that vision in their minds, and also be able to tell their team how to execute the vision. I don't know exactly about how to execute the vision, but they have to be able to tell their teams the things he or she wants to accomplish, and also they need to be able to check from time to time if the team is getting to that place, or is going on the right way. So that's how you have to maintain your vision to in the long run. But also you have to be able to go into some specific, maybe not all, because your team are the executors and they are detail oriented, and they will give you more things to work on, and they will give you the solution. But you have to be able, if that solution, to know if that the solution matches your biggest vision, or your vision in the long term. So that's why maybe you want to understand more about what questions to translate that thinking into questions, and how those questions can be best for your team, or your organization, or the people you work with. What would be the best questions to ask for yourself to keep your your long-term vision, sorry, or for your team to go to the specifics. So, for example, let's say you want to work with education, and you want to your long-term vision is, I want to everybody in the world, every kid in the world is well educated. That's your vision. So you could translate into a question: how can I get everybody in the world, every kid in the world, to be well educated? Or how can I improve education in the whole world for kids? That would be the biggest picture, the abstract thinking question. And then you will have to start by little steps, because you can't go and just magically with a wand change the whole world. So you will have to also be able to chunk down this question into, for example, let's say you will start by your community, and you will start by your neighborhood. So you may say, how can I get the best education for kids in my neighborhood? Maybe in the school where my children are attending to. So that's a big difference between the abstract and the concrete thinking. By concrete, you are just working in a little place, in a little community, and maybe you will start growing from there. So also you might need, that's where the middle earth thing, the middle chunk uh, enters here. You can say, okay, I want to that for the world to change, and also I want my community to start. We will start from our community. And what would be the middle ground? Maybe the middle ground would be, I don't know, the province, or maybe your city, your whole city, and then that middle ground will change also over time. You will start with your city as a middle ground, and then you will start with your province or your county, and then you will go in with your country, and so on, right? So as I was saying, you have to keep the big picture, the abstract thinking about the whole world, but you also have to work on concrete actions, on measurable actions that will be, okay, how can I start in my community, in my neighborhood, at the school where my children go to? And that's an example, I think, that can help you understand the differences between this kind of thinking. Okay. Another thing I think might be helpful is understanding more about the concrete. I have talked very little about the concrete thinking. So in this case, you will start with this concrete thinking, just working in your neighborhood with your children's colleagues and friends from school, and you will have to go step by step, taking very little steps and growing up from there. So what you may start with a list. What are the little things I can do, or a very little plan on how I will go on action, will take action. For example, I don't know, I will create a group for parents where we can reunite and we can have a meeting, and everyone will share their views and share their expertise. I don't know if they want to be involved in their children's education for the parent, and that also the teachers, and how we can create this community and start building from there. That would be a little step you can take if you wanted to, if this was your plan, for example. And sorry, as I was saying also about concrete thinking, you will have to start very small, very little, taking very little steps for the concrete actions, and by very little step by step thinking, you will have to keep in mind your big picture, of course, but you can only actually create things from scratch by going little by little. And maybe your big picture will never be a real thing while you are alive. We don't know, actually. So you have to accept that the quote or that piece of uncertainty being part of your plan. And you only know you have to start somewhere, and by starting with little actions, you will also be motivated, because you will see very little changes going on, and maybe in a few times, in a few years, a few months, you will see that change is developing, and also getting more people involved in the thing you're doing. That's the only way you can actually get to something. Even if you have that great big picture, you have to start by the concrete. You have to start step by step, building your dream, building your biggest aspiration. So I suggest if you have something great, we all do, I think we all have great dreams, but you have to start by little things at a time. And as one of my mentors says, um, if you if you start driving, even if there is fog, and you go very slowly in the driveway, and with all the fog, just by continue driving, even if you don't see much of the way ahead of you, you will get somewhere. So I would say that um, use both thinking, use the abstract thinking to think better about how to do things and improve them, but also start by somewhere. You have to start somewhere to actually get your dream done and see your dream being accomplished. So that was all I had to tell you about abstract and concrete, thinking. And Middle Earth was just a way to say about the middle ground. You have to maybe think in a middle term also, but just by starting you will get somewhere. So start your working on your dream right now with very little steps. You can do it. And please, if you like what I've been sharing with you, like it, and also comment and say what are your dreams, how you will take a simple and little action today to get to that. And well, if you want to talk with me, we can have a conversation. Just send me a DM, a direct message, and we can keep on talking about the things. I think they are very important for us to start thinking how we think and also to take concrete action. So I hope you like it and see you next Thursday. Thank you everybody. Bye bye.